What makes a business blog successful? What type of content makes the most sales? How can working with other bloggers help you grow? That's just some of the topics I cover in today's episode of the Blogcentric podcast. Welcome to Spiderworking's Blogcentric podcast, a podcast about blogging. Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Blogcentric podcast. I'm Amanda Webb, and you'll find the show notes for this episode at spiderworking.com/53. The name Mick's Garage suggests my local garage, the garage round the corner where you bring your car for a service. In fact, it's a large organisation that supplies car parts that's expanded from its Irish base to serve both the UK and Poland. The thing is, when you read the blog, you still feel connected to the business. It doesn't feel like a large organisation, but a collection of people that are passionate about motoring, passionate about cars. I got to speak to Rob King from Mick's Garage about the blog, how it's evolved, and how they're managing to keep it personal. You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking. Today I'd like to welcome Rob King to the Blogcentric podcast. Hi Rob.
Hi Amanda, how are you?
And Rob is the blogger behind the brilliant Mick's Garage blog. I think most people in Ireland and obviously outside Ireland now, because I see you've branched out. You're not just in Ireland anymore, are you?
Yeah, we're in the UK and Poland as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's something relatively new.
And so a lot of people in Ireland would be very familiar with the brand already, and a lot of us would know about your blog, particularly those of us in the blogging sphere, I think, because it's a really good blog. And so I'm really excited to have you here today.
Well, cool. Thank you very much. I suppose it's always nice to hear that somebody does actually read what you're putting up there. So,
I know that myself. And you look at the statistics, but you don't believe people actually read it.
Yeah, no, it's nice to hear. Thanks.
You weren't there right when the Mick's Garage blog started, am I right? It wasn't your idea to blog.
There was a blogger platform there when I started. I'm with the company 6 years now, but it was little more than that. It was an underutilized kind of thing that was just their legacy kind of set up, and for quite a while we kind of left it at that, and we made the odd attempt at working with Blogger until 2 years ago we kind of took the plunge and decided to ditch the whole thing and make the switch to WordPress.
Okay, that's a pretty big decision to make, isn't it?
Yeah, there was quite a bit involved, and I'm not particularly technically minded at all when it comes to all that kind of stuff. So thankfully we've got a fairly good team here who helped out with all that kind of stuff. We're just going through a very similar process again now, where we did have the blog on a subdomain, blog.micksgarage.com, and we're in the process of moving over to subfolder. So fun and games all over again.
And what was the decision? Why did you make that decision to move from the subdomain?
It's something we wanted to do for the last 18 months, but we had a bit of kickback, in fairness, from our IT departments. And while we in the marketing team were confident that it was the right thing to do from a Spider's point of view, SEO, from every logical angle, it just was difficult to implement from a technical standpoint, and that's the reason it didn't happen. And we finally got our way, and nearly 2 years later. So,
well, it'd be interesting to see then. Well, of course, it's going to be worth the effort, but hopefully you'll be able to go back to those naysayers and say, "Look, told you, it's going to work."
Fingers crossed. Yeah, it should be good.
So, you started at Mick's Garage specifically as a blogger or as a marketer?
No, I started in customer service actually. So I come from an art and design background. But just have kind of a lifelong passion for motoring and cars and things like that. So I've always been involved in motorsport and tinkering with cars and things. So yeah, I kind of was able to kind of transition from customer service because of kind of the art and design and the kind of creative background into the marketing team and gradually kind of, I suppose, carved the niche that I'm in now. So yeah, blogging came naturally along the way. It wasn't something that I applied for and got the role at Mick's Garage for by any means.
Mm-hmm. So you just naturally fell into it. And I think that's kind of cool that they've got, well, I suppose obviously if you're going to work for Mick's Garage, you'd kind of hope that you were passionate about motoring and stuff. But that really comes across, I think, in the blog. It's really important, I think, to have someone who really does care about what they're writing about. And you can tell that.
Yeah, I think all too often I see with blogs that if you know about the subject yourself, and chances are if you're reading a blog on a particular subject, you have an understanding of it. When an article is written by somebody who doesn't have a good knowledge of the subject, it's immediately apparent, and I hate to see that. When you read an article by somebody who is clearly passionate and knowledgeable about their subject, it's fantastic and it's kind of inspiring.
So obviously you were the right choice for the job. What is it? Why did Mick's Garage start blogging? Was it for SEO or was there another goal behind it? SEO obviously was the. I mean, ultimately everything comes back to numbers in Mick's Garage, and revenue is the be all and end all at the end of the day, and everything has to come back to that. But SEO benefit was high on the list of priorities. But I think also, I think we try and market ourselves as the car part experts. The main site doesn't enable us to kind of get that message across. And that's where the blog was able to come in, that we were able to kind of provide useful content that would kind of educate and inform our customers, and that's kind of ultimately the goal. It wasn't, from my perspective, a revenue or SEO kind of project. It was to an avenue to get across the company's personality, to get across our passion, and to try and teach people something useful to help them out. And that's something that does come across really strongly. I think that's something I had in my notes, was that when you read the Mick's Garage blog, you don't think of Mick's Garage being a large organisation. I think the name of the blog or the name of the company, for a start, it could just be, Mick down the road who works in the garage. I think you get that. And I think the blog, it helped you buy into that. And that's kind of important because you're not a small organisation. You're in 3 countries now. Look at that. I think... So do you have a specific approach to that, or does it just come naturally to you, or do you have kind of like a list of rules of the way that you're going to speak or the tone of voice that you're using?
Not so much tone of voice. I mean, we try to write with a little bit of personality and a personal tone to it. The main aim of the goal, we avoid news, we avoid clickbait, because there's hundreds of sites out there who are doing it way better than we're ever going to do. So we focus on trying to provide value in the form of useful content that our readers will get, gain some knowledge out of, and educate themselves. So that's the kind of the ethos of it, if you like. And we just try and write in a natural style. I mean, I kind of write the way that I talk, I think, in a lot of ways. So, there's no hard and fast rules.
It's a very good style. It's a very good style. And come to is there actually a Mick, or was there a Mick?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Michael Crean and his brother Kieran, 2 twins actually from County Mayo, still both here, very much so. Mick started Mick's Garage in his bedroom on a laptop, and went from strength to strength.
You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking.
You were talking earlier about obviously every blogger that's blogging for business needs to be looking at the bottom line. How do you make sales? So how is your blog? What do you do on your blog that encourages people to buy it? Have you got any tricks that you know work well for you, or do you have a process? Or is it just the case of because they found you through the SEO, they kind of find their way onto the site to buy stuff?
Bit of both. I mean, we have some articles, like our most popular article is about track days, which is like a kind of a form of motorsport, if you like, where you bring your car onto a racetrack. We don't really sell anything to do with track days at all, or we don't sell track days. But it's something that I'm interested in. It's something I do myself. And as a result, I was able to write about it kind of, easily and quickly. And that is our most read article. And we've got a series of articles about track days and stuff like that. So that brings in a huge amount of traffic, but very, very little revenue. Then on the flip side, we have kind of a series of useful buying guides that help people buy products on the site that are difficult to figure out, like brake pads you can put your reg number in, for example, on the site, and it's supposed to bring you to the part that fits your car. But with some parts, there still can be a heap of choices. So you need extra help to help you find out which one fits your car. And so we've written articles on various products that help you sort that out. And those are the ones that really do bring in the revenue. So stuff like that, buying guides and how-to guides and video guides, all that kind of stuff. They're the ones that really work for us from a financial point of view.
And that makes sense, I suppose, because they're at the point where they need to buy the thing. So that's why that's kind of like Marcus Sheridan's thing about answering all your customer questions with your blog, and they come to you. So that makes a lot of sense. And I have some of the blog posts that do best for me on my site would be they'd be popular, but they're not making people buy from me, which is always the frustrating thing. Why don't they look at this brilliant one? But it isn't all about numbers, I suppose. It's about those right people are coming to your site then at that stage.
And as well, I mean, it depends on what a conversion means to you. I mean, historically it's always been sales, but we've also started to measure email sign-ups as counting as a conversion, and we get quite a few email sign-ups through the blog. And I think a lot of bloggers probably that would be their primary, conversion metric, if you like, is an email sign-up. I think so. Yeah, they can perform all kinds of functions.
Yeah, definitely. When you're not selling a product, when you're selling a service like mine, you're always kind of that's a good conversion metric to measure.
Yeah.
And then are you including calls to action within the post? Is that how you're getting people across then to actually buy the products? Or how do you find that they travel from the blog into the site? Or is that part of your new plan?
Yeah, we do. I mean, because the blog being on a subdomain as opposed to subfolder, it's treated, as you know, as a separate site. And you then have to get the people from the separate site to where you want them to be ultimately. Mm-hmm. So getting it onto a subfolder, answers half of that battle. But yeah, still calls to action within posts and things like that. We generally speaking, try to make our posts completely non-salesy. We might have a link to the thing we're talking about within the text, but that would be about the size of it. There's absolutely no hard sell from within the blog, or not intended anyway. That's cool. That's the way we try to keep it.
That's great, because I think that's a mistake a lot of businesses make. Finally, I talk them into blogging, and then when they start blogging, they haven't really thought about the content they're going to put, so they just put up I'm doing this week or buy this week, which is actually far better email content than it is blog content. So I think your approach is absolutely the one that tends to work.
No, it's all about answering people's questions, and that's one of the things we do is we kind of tie in with customer service on a regular basis. We have a live chat system which records people's queries, and we can dig into that and see what people are asking for on a regular basis, and then we go and tailor articles to suit based on those queries. So that's the kind of thing that we're interested in doing.
That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, it works well.
I also noticed you've been doing a bit of blogger outreach recently. We're both, I think, in the Irish Bloggers Facebook group.
Yeah.
And I saw you posting in there looking for people to help you create videos. How's that been going for you? Have you had many bites, and are you getting a good return? And what's different about them doing it than you doing it?
It's in its infancy, but I was very impressed with the results because having done video at Mick's Garage for the last 5 years, I know that it's not easy, and so I was really impressed with the results that came back. We've got a kind of a core group of 5 guys and girls who we're working with now on. They've literally only done the first product, and we've sent them out the second product at the moment. So we should get the second batch back soon. But so in terms of return, don't know yet. But as I said, yeah, really impressed with what the quality of material that came back from the guys. It was fantastic, really good.
And how did you approach them, and what sort of guidelines did you give them? Just if anyone was thinking of going and talking to bloggers to do that for them, how should they go about it in order to get people on side rather than rubbing them up the wrong way? Because we know that can happen as well.
Yeah, in terms of actually going out and offering the service to other individuals, I mean, I suppose it depends on whether the company is actually interested in, if their mindset is in that space already or not. With us, obviously, absolutely we are. We're already doing it. And the reason we reached out to these guys is because there's only just resources, in-house resources. There is only myself and one other guy who is part-time kind of on video side of things. So yeah, we were looking to see how we could scale things up, and reaching out to bloggers was the kind of obvious way. So but in terms of how people could, I mean, what I looked for initially when I was talking to guys was examples of what they'd done previously, and if they didn't have examples, then I was less keen. So yeah, have an example to show somebody of what you can do. That would be the number one thing I'd say.
And I guess that would be my fear if I was going to do that, having tried to get guest blogs out of people in the past. The first mistake I made was not approaching bloggers, just approaching people who knew about stuff. And I think when you blog every day, or you write every day, you don't necessarily publish every day, you just think it's easy. Well, we know it's not easy, but you think it's easy so that anyone can do it. And I suppose my fear would be I'd go out there and nobody would send in any content. I'd send them stuff and they wouldn't do the work.
Yeah, there was a bit of well, I suppose I wasn't too concerned. I mean, because I'd seen examples of what they had done previously, I was pretty confident that I was going to get back something halfway decent, and we very much did. You can go onto our YouTube channel and see the 5-6 most recent videos are all from the guys we sent out products to review. So.
Yeah, I saw some of them. I think it's a really good strategy as well, because of course, as well as getting that content for you, those people are obviously going to share it themselves, which means you're getting extra reach that you wouldn't if you were just making it yourselves. I think it's a really interesting strategy to have. I definitely need to take your lead and look back at my guest blogging program, which kind of died in the water a while ago.
It just makes what with us, it makes our product that more believable, because I mean, it's one thing, me, an employee of Mick's Garage, telling you how great this thing is that we want you to buy, but it's another thing entirely with a complete stranger who doesn't work for Mick's Garage telling you that it's X, Y, or Z. So it's just much more believable, and it adds another kind of another layer of personality, I think, as well. I mean, all these guys were very, very different in their approach to the videos that they made, which ultimately makes kind of our YouTube offering, our blog offering, richer.
And then what happens if they don't like it?
I suppose what we ask them to do is to review it with a price point in mind. So, for example, we sent out some hair straighteners that you plug into the car through the cigarette lighter socket.
Yes, I saw Melanie's review on that. Yeah.
They're a €12 product. So to my mind, if those things work and didn't go on fire, I'd be impressed. So we asked her to review them with that in mind. We know they're not going to be the next GHDs, but did they work? Did they do the job? What did you think of them? And if they thought they were crap, then yeah, say they're crap.
Cool. And I suppose that helps you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You won't buy them.
We won't go and buy them again. So.
Okay, that's really interesting. I think that's something a lot of bloggers think about, but they see it as being something that would just be a terrifying thing to do. And I think as long as you approach it well, places like the Irish bloggers group, I think theyre would absolutely kill me if hundreds of people went in there now and offered blogger stuff. But it is, you have to, I think, understand the community before you go and do it. But that's a really good place to kind of source things, and not just the Irish bloggers group for the people in the UK. There's UK bloggers groups or bloggers groups in general. But I think you always have to go in thinking about what's in it for the blogger, because otherwise that's when you get the negative reaction, I think.
Yeah, sure.
You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking. If you were to start your blog again today, or if you were to talk to somebody who said, right, I've just set up this business, should I blog? And if I should blog, what should I do? How should I start? What would you tell them?
Good question. I tell myself, because I've just started on my own website actually, and I'm going through that same exact process. So, yeah, absolutely blog. It just purely from the point of fresh, unique content. And I believe, rightly or wrongly, I mean, if you've got all your, all the technical stuff in order, all your SEO stuff, everything's ticked off there, then the more you write passionately and knowledgeably, then I don't see how that can fail to broaden your scope in terms of attracting traffic and visitors to the site. And plus, if you enjoy what you're writing about, then it doesn't really feel like hard work. I suppose if you're having to do it for something you've no passion for, no interest in, no desire in, then it would be an entirely different story, and I can't imagine having to do that. It'd be awful.
I'd say it'd be pretty tough, all right, trying to find an angle on it that you could make sound interesting when you're not interested.
Yeah.
Just before we go, because when you started talking about that, I started thinking about having kind of good and passionate content. Do you work a content schedule? Have you any kind of tool recommendations for that, or how do you manage kind of when you're going to post content and what you're going to post about?
We do have a schedule, but it's nothing bad. We don't use any tools for it. We're just really using Google Docs. So we have kind of an ideas dump, if you like, that we go and throw hundreds of ideas in at the start of the year or throughout the year or whatever, and we can basically pull from that then whatever takes our fancy, or whatever's seasonal, or sometimes we would try and create a series of articles based on a theme. So yeah, that's roughly the structure. It's pretty loose. We're not rigid when it comes to that kind of thing at all. But we do have an annual plan, but we're pretty flexible about it.
That was going to be my next question. How often do you plan? Is it just once a year you sit down and kind of brainstorm ideas, or is it kind of an ongoing thing?
It is. I mean, the initial kind of, it generally tends to be the end of the previous year that we do it. But I mean, we come up with a heap of ideas, and they do get added to throughout the year, and then one idea will spin off into another, and there never seems to be a shortage of things to blog about, to be honest. So we're not running into any issues on that front yet.
And you mentioned you were setting up your own site there. So my big thing, I'm getting like green-eyed listening to you talking about we, because I'm a one-person business. And when you talk about creating and coming up with a plan with someone, I just get really jealous. I love the idea of that. So your new website, is that a personal project? Is that just you? And is it harder because it's you, would be the question.
It is. Well, the website side of things is just me. Yeah, it's a website called trackdays.ie, which kind of taps into what I was talking about earlier on. Was Mick's Garage don't do anything really to do with track days, but I was passionate about it, and so we're basically it's a site which sets up and runs these track days at racetracks throughout the country.
I think I liked your Facebook page earlier.
Maybe you did. So yeah, it's harder in a way because you've got nobody to bounce ideas off and go, is this great? I think this is fantastic. And then someone comes along and goes, that's utter rubbish, Rob. What are you talking about? So it's great to have that safety net there sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're working for a larger company. But it's also great when you're a one-man band or because you just don't have the same restrictions. I mean, even in Mick's Garage, which is, I suppose a relatively forward-thinking, fast-paced, tech-savvy company, there are still huge restrictions because of workflow and all the rest of it. Things, as the company grows, that only gets worse. So, yeah, working on your own projects, if you have an idea, you can just action it immediately there and then, and that's just awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I like about working for myself. But I do get envious at the idea of someone to brainstorm with. But that's got to be a topic for another podcast, I think. That's brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us. Where do we find Mick's Garage online?
micksgarage.com. You can find us there, obviously. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I think we might even be on Snapchat now.
Ooh, cool. I'll have to check that out. That's brilliant. Thanks very much for joining us, and I'm sure our listeners will get loads of value from that. Thanks so much.
Cool, thanks, Amanda.
You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking. And that's all from this week's episode 53 of the Blogcentric podcast. But before you go, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? I would just love it. I'd love it if you could go and leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. It really, really helps let new people know about the show, and it keeps me motivated. And you know what as well? If you believe in karma, you will know that if you do this nice thing for me, something nice might happen to you too. Until next week, happy blogging. Blogcentric from Spiderworking is sponsored by We Teach Social, social media e-learning courses for small business. Find out more at weteachsocial.com.